Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about the topic SQL constraints in database management systems. SQL constraints are used to specify the rules for the data in the table. Constraints can be specified during table creation using create table statement, or after the table is created, we can specify using alter table statement. The syntax for specifying the constraints using create table is given here. Create table, table name. Within parentheses, we can give the column name space data type. After data type, we can enforce the constraints whatever we want to give. The following constraints are commonly used in SQL. First one is not null constraint. It ensures that the column cannot have a null value. Unique constraint ensures that all the values in a column are different. That is, there should not be any duplicate values. Primary key is the combination of not null and unique constraint. It uniquely identifies each row in the table. Foreign key creates the links between the tables. And check constraint ensures that the values in the column satisfies a particular condition. Let us discuss about each constraint with an example. First, we will see about not null constraint using create table statement. Here, we are creating the table student with 4 columns: register number, name, section and degree. The not null constraint is mentioned for register number and name columns. After the table creation, if we see the description, we can see under null column, we are having no for register number and name alone. By default, all the columns will accept null values. But if not null constraint is enforced for certain columns, it won't accept null values. That is indicated by no in the respective columns under null column. So for section and degree we have yes, but for register and name alone we have no. Next, how to enforce the not null constraint on alter table statement. Now let us assume that we need not null constraint for degree column also. So we can do this by this statement, that is alter table, table name is student. We can use the keyword modify. We are modifying the column degree. We have to mention its data type, and after data type we have to mention the constraint. So not null constraint is enforced for degree. After this statement, if we check the description of the table, we can see no for degree also, because now degree also having not null constraint. Before that it was yes, now it is no. Next, unique constraint on create table statement. So here we are creating a table called persons with columns ID, last name, first name and age. For ID and last name, not null constraint is enforced. We can either enforce the constraint after its data type, or other option is we can enforce the constraint after all the columns like this. So here we are enforcing the unique constraint for this column ID at the end of the table. So unique of ID, it means that the unique constraint is enforced for the column ID. So after this table is created, let us try to insert the values into the table. So here we are inserting 2 rows. So we have mentioned one for both the first row as well as second row for ID. Since unique constraint is enforced for ID, it should not accept the duplicate entries. So if we execute this query, we can see that we have an error, that is duplicate entry 1 for key persons.id. So we are not able to insert the duplicate values because the unique constraint is enforced for the column ID. So this is the purpose of unique constraint. Let us see the unique constraint on alter table. Now suppose we want to enforce the unique constraint for last name. We can use this command. So alter table persons, instead of modify we can use another type of syntax, that is add constraint. So alter table persons add constraint, and whenever you use add constraint we can use the constraint name. So constraint name is here UC persons, and unique of for which column we want to enforce, that column name has to be mentioned within parentheses. So unique of last name. So we are enforcing the unique constraint for last name here. So once this statement is executed, and if we try to insert the duplicate values for last name, it should not accept. So here we are inserting into the persons 2 rows, that is first row is having K for the last name, and second row is also having K for the last name. Since unique constraint is enforced for last name, it should create an error. So once we execute this query, we can see that there is an error. So duplicate entry K for key persons dot UC persons. So UC persons is the constraint name. So the advantage of having this constraint name is that whenever we don't want this constraint, we can drop it easily. So for example, here we can drop like this. So alter table persons drop constraint. So to add the constraint, we have to use add constraints. To remove the constraint, we can use the keyword drop. So drop constraint. So what is the constraint name we have enforced is UC persons. So if we give that name and execute the statement, the constraint will be dropped. And now if we try to enter the duplicate values, it will accept. So we can see that here. So insert into persons values of we have K as the last name for first row and K also for second row. The last name is duplicated now. But since the constraint is being removed, it will accept now. So that's what we are not getting any error. It is mentioned that 2 rows affected. So this is one method of adding the constraint using alter table command. Next, primary key constraint. Let us see on the create table statement. So we have create table persons. We are enforcing the primary key constraint on ID. So once we enforce the primary key constraint on a particular column, it will be satisfying both unique and null constraint. So it should not contain any duplicate values. Also, it won't allow null values. And a table can have only one primary key. So after this primary key constraint is enforced, let us see the description of the table. Here we can see that we have one column called key. So here PRI indicates that the primary key constraint is enforced for the column ID. And null is also no here because it won't accept null values. Okay. So now if we try to insert the values for the persons, that is if we try to insert duplicate values for ID, it won't accept. So since we have one in the first row as well as in the second row, it is creating the error duplicate entry 1 for the key persons dot primary key. So this is the advantage of primary key. Next, primary key constraint on alter table. Suppose if we want to mention the primary key after the table creation, we can use alter table command. So alter table, the table name is persons, add constraint. So we are adding the constraint and we can give the constraint name as pk person, and whatever constraint we want to enforce we have to give, and within the parenthesis we have to mention the column name. So here for ID we are enforcing the primary key, and once this statement is executed, if we see we have primary key for the ID under key column. So this is done using the alter statement. So if we forget to create the primary key during table creation, we can enforce it using alter table command. And later if we want to drop this constraint, we can drop it by using drop constraint since we have given the constraint name here. Next, foreign key constraint. Let us see using create table statement. So here we have two tables. First one is persons table and another one is orders table. So in person table we have person ID, last name, first name and age. The person ID is the primary key here and last name is not null. And in the second table orders we have order ID, order number and person ID. So person ID is nothing but the same person who here available here. So this person ID and this person ID is same. That is, this order is placed by this particular person. And here in the order table the primary key is order ID. So we have mentioned the constraint at the end of the table. So primary key of order ID and foreign key of person ID. So this person ID is considered as foreign key here. So foreign key of person ID references persons of person ID. So if we enforce the foreign key for this table, whatever person ID available here alone accepted here. So if we are trying to enter another person ID which is not available here, it won't accept because of this foreign key. So thus foreign key is used to link these two tables. So let us insert the values into the persons table. So we have inserted one row, that is one is the person ID, and the last name is K, first name is Anita, and age is 30. So we have inserted one row successfully. Now in orders table, we are trying to insert into the orders values of order ID is 100, order number is 1, and for person ID, if we try to insert 2, it won't accept, because in person table we have only 1 here. 2 is not available here. If we use 1 here, it will accept, but if we are using 2 which is not available in the persons table, it will create the error. So it is creating the error, cannot add or update a child row. So here orders table is called child table, and persons is the parent table. So because of the foreign key constraint, it won't accept the values which is not available in the parent table. And suppose if we insert the same person ID which is available in the persons table, it will accept. So here the person ID is 1, already 1 has been inserted, so it will be successfully accepted. So that row is inserted successfully. Now if we drop the table also, first we have to drop the child table and then only we can drop the parent table. If we are dropping the parent table without dropping the child table, it won't accept. So deletion also should be done only from child to parent. So this is the purpose of foreign key constraint. We can enforce the foreign key constraint using alter table also. So here we have created the persons table, and orders table is also created. Without the foreign key, it has been created. Now if we want to enforce the foreign key on the order table, we can use like this. So alter table orders, we can add the constraint using the add constraints keyword, and the key constraint name is fk person order, and foreign key is the keyword. Foreign key of for which we are going to enforce is person ID. So foreign key of person ID references parent table is persons of person ID. So once we execute this statement, this foreign key is enforced for this child table orders. Next, check constraint on the create table. So here we are enforcing the check constraint after the all column declaration. So we have ID, last name, first name, and age. For ID and last name, we are enforcing not null constraint, and for age alone, we are enforcing the check constraint. So check of age greater than or equal to 18. So whenever we enter the values less than 18, it won't accept. So this is the purpose of check constraint. So we can see here we have inserted one row. So the age is 15. So it is showing the error, that is the check constraint is violated, because the age should be greater than or equal to 18. Check constraint on alter table. So here if we forgot to enforce the check constraint during the table creation, we can enforce it by using the alter table. So here we are using alter table. So before this alter table, if we enter the value as 15, it is accepting. Now if we alter table, add constraint check person age. The check person age is the name of the constraint, and check is the keyword. Within parenthesis we have to enforce the condition. So age should be greater than or equal to 18. So check constraint it is violated. So although we have inserted one row here using 15, it has been affected, but after alter table, it will show the error, it is violated. So that's thus we can enforce the check constraint using both the create table as well as alter table. So we have seen all the basic constraints in SQL in this lecture. Thank you.